We have new job numbers from ADP. We can go ahead and put B1 up on the screen. It's a tear sheet from the Wall Street Journal, which is relying on the ADP numbers as well. The headline here, ADP estimates private sector was losing jobs in October, although we don't totally know whether this is an accurate reflection because we don't have government numbers right now, Krystal. Reaction to these ADP numbers, I'm not particularly surprised by them. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing things trending in this direction for a while. And I think that Trump has thought that he could look, Trump is a master at bending reality, like bending perceptions of reality. And I think he believed that he could do that with the economy as well. He could point to the stock market. We've had the government shutdown, so we're not getting government numbers. So we have to rely on numbers like ADP. And we've been tracking here how people feel about the economy. Some 70% plus say that the economy is poor. That is a total reversal of where things were in Trump's first term, where they had all sorts of issues with Trump. His approval rating was underwater, but they still felt like the economy was really good. And I think that is like the central reason ultimately that he ends up back in the White House. So you have a complete flip of that. People in their own lives are experiencing a lot of economic hardship. And then we've also been tracking this slew of corporate layoffs that have been coming down the pike. And, we have been moving in this direction for a while, but I really think it's coming to a head now where it used to be the general sense was, okay, if corporate America is doing well, then Americans are probably doing pretty well too. Those two things have become completely disconnected. The best thing you can do as a corporate boss is fire a bunch of people. Your stock price is going to go up. And so the fortunes of corporations are actually now inversely related to the fortunes of ordinary Americans. That is the reality of where we live now. And so yesterday, Sagar and I covered how consumer sentiment is at historic lows. And as we go into the Thanksgiving and the holiday season, et cetera, really bad place to be. Meanwhile, corporate sentiment is near all-time highs. I mean, that tells you everything about the tale of two economies and about the way that now what benefits corporate America is directly advantageous for them and disadvantageous for your average American. So I don't think, whether these ADP numbers are exactly precise, I think they are probably directionally correct that there was either very little job growth or actual job losses. This is also for the time period when the government was shut down, and the government is a huge part of our economy as well.
Well, yeah, and so the ADP numbers, I mean, it's crazy right now, the way that we are trying to understand what's happening without the usual information. So payrolls firm, so the ADP is estimating the private sector, according to the Journal, was shedding 11,250 jobs a week in the 4 weeks through October 25. Now, it also says, last week in a separate data series, ADP estimated that the private sector added 42,000 jobs in October, but that figure uses a different methodology intended to replicate the government's monthly jobs report more closely. So it's a mess just trying to understand even what's happening in the economy. But the consumer sentiment versus corporate sentiment marker is a pretty good one, and it's a good one in terms of taking the temperature of the public, and in terms of Trump not understanding, not being able to explain away consumer sentiment or assuage consumer sentiment. I think that's really, really true, Krystal. It's a problem that the Biden administration had, and they kind of went for greedflation for a little bit, but in a very half-hearted way. To say we understand, like, yes, we're in charge of the economy, but we understand, to the extent any government is in charge of the economy or any president's in charge of the economy, but we understand what's going on, and, like, find another scapegoat, et cetera. But it was half-hearted. And now for Trump, it's like he's not even looking for a scapegoat other than Biden. You just keep saying we inherited a bad economy. Once you're a year into your presidency, which he almost is, you really have to stop saying that line about the economy you inherited, because it's just going to piss people off. Not only does it stop working, but it's also just going to piss people off. So here's how House Speaker Mike Johnson talked about all the ideas that Republicans have to reduce healthcare costs, which are going up for Americans. This is B2.
Subsidizing the insurance companies is not the answer, because it just drives the cost up even further. So we need to look at the root causes. The Republican Party is the party that is working on that, has been working on it, and has more ideas going forward. We got to bring down the costs. And you can do that in a responsible way that also increases access and quality of care. And we got notebooks full of ideas on how to do that. We got to build consensus around it.
That's news to me. They have notebooks of ideas of how to do this, Krystal, because if they had notebooks, we would probably expect to hear a little bit more about what's in those notebooks. And all we can hear about is the notebooks now.
That's right. I'm having major flashbacks to Mitt Romney and his binders full of women, but we'll never know whether he really had those binders or not now, I guess. But yeah, with the notebooks of ideas, it also harkens back to Trump saying, we've got a concept of a plan on healthcare. The truth of the matter is Republicans have given up on healthcare, and they just decided the best thing to do is to just hope that nobody talks about it.
And you know what? That's why they're mad at Marjorie Taylor Greene.
In 2024, it worked, right? Kamala didn't really bring it up because Democrats also had kind of given up on healthcare. Biden's theoretical plan was a public option, which I do think would be a significant improvement over the system that we have. Of course, I support Medicare for all. I think that's the direction that we should go in. But, the Republicans have a point when it comes to the subsidies just going straight to the health insurance companies. They have a point about that. Yeah. I mean, that's been my criticism of Obamacare from the beginning, is you actually have to confront the health insurers, you have to confront big pharma, you have to confront the hospital system and the private equity barons that are rolling up those hospital systems. Like, you actually are going to have to confront capital if you're going to deal with this thing. And there is zero indication that Republicans want to do that at all. So to the extent they ever float anything, it's like price transparency. Sure, fine. Does anyone believe that that's going to solve the problem?
No.
The thing that Trump floated of, okay, well, instead of giving the subsidies to the health insurers, we're going to give it to you guys in your health savings account. Okay, fine. But the reality of what's going to happen there, that doesn't deal with prices at all. It doesn't deal with the underlying problems at all whatsoever. And what you likely end up happening then is even fewer people inside the health insurance marketplace, which leads again to this death spiral situation. The people that are still there are older and sicker. And guess what? That raises premiums for everyone. So it could actually accelerate the collapse of the system we have, which, look, maybe that's something we should be cheering for at this point. Like, I'm not really, I'm not an accelerationist typically, but something apparently catastrophic is going to have to happen before legislators are really willing to confront capital and deal with the system. But yeah, I mean, you listen to Mike Johnson talk, and I'm just hearing Marjorie Taylor Greene in my head saying, why do I have to be in like a skiff to even stiff what a Republican healthcare plan is? And I think it was, again, the ladies of The View that were like, well, maybe there's not one. And she said, I think that's the real truth. And of course, obviously, that is the real truth. They are not going to do anything to try to tackle healthcare. They're just going to try to change the subject again. That is the actual strategy.
Yeah, they got nothing. It is the biggest failure of the conservative project in the last 15 years. When they could run on repeal and replace, it became a replacement in and of itself for an actual policy, because it was such a useful political bludgeon and hammer for so long that by the time they had the power to actually repeal and replace, it was abundantly obvious there was no consensus plan and there was no good plan. There was no consensus plan because there actually was no good plan that people agreed on. And to your point about the Trump idea of giving subsidies directly to people, that's basically what we do, rather to insurance companies. That's basically what we do with college tuition. And I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the show, just on the general question of affordability, but that has not brought down the cost of college tuition in any way whatsoever. So it's not a long-term solution. I don't know how interested Donald Trump is in a structural long-term solution. I don't think anybody is under the illusion, or is under the illusion or delusion, you could probably call it, that Donald Trump wants to do like a structural long-term fix to the healthcare system. He's never run on some type of like comprehensive fix to Obamacare. Just repeal, replace, everyone will have healthcare. So there is no Republican plan waiting in the wings that Trump could like shepherd through like a good old tax cut bill. There's nothing like that for healthcare. And you know what? It matters to every single American family, normal American family, not ultra wealthy American family, on a monthly basis. Even if you're upper middle class, your healthcare costs are out of freaking control.
That's exactly right. Yeah, no, I mean, Trump, all he knows how to do is like brand plays and gimmicks. That's it. So, someone brings him 50-year mortgage and is like, and with a meme that appeals to his ego. And he's like, yes, let's do that. And everyone absolutely hates it because he never thinks beyond like, this compares me favorably to FDR. Let's do it. The fake, $2,000 stimulus checks that he's, claiming he's going to send out, which is 100% never, ever going to happen. And already his officials are like, well, what we really mean by that is the theoretical savings that you achieved through lowering the price of avocados or whatever. It's like, so I mean, that's really all he knows how. Now he's good at that branding and those gimmicks, right? No tax on tips. I think that was very appealing in the election. I think people liked that idea. But if you're actually going to govern and deal with complicated, entrenched systems and entrenched interests, you're going to need a little bit more. You're going to need an ideology. You're going to need some backbone and some will to do it. You're going to need some actual like policy knowledge. And that is never, ever going to be this man who is so stupid that he would float something like a 50-year mortgage, which literally enraged absolutely everyone as an actual plan for affordable housing.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in just one moment. Let's take a listen to Kevin Hassett here, who's the director of the National Economic Council, talking about if the shutdown had continued, he was on Face the Nation over the weekend, there would have been a negative quarter. Well, that, I guess, may still happen. Here's B3.
Goldman Sachs, they have a top economic team, and they're estimating that we've already knocked about 1.5% off of GDP. I think that number is probably low if we keep going even a couple more weeks, because there's going to be a massive amount of air disruption, especially around the holidays. And, one of these things, every now and then when we're talking economics, you and I, we talk about seasonal adjustments and things like that. But the fact is that Thanksgiving time is one of the hottest times of the year for the economy. It's, Black Friday and all that kind of stuff. Right. And if people aren't traveling at that moment, then we really could be looking at a negative quarter for the fourth quarter.
All right, and here's a
Why is he smiling when he says that?
I don't know. Here's a tear sheet from Reuters. The headline is U.S. fourth quarter GDP could be negative if shutdown drags on. White House economic advisor says just about what he mentioned there on Face the Nation. So I guess, Krystal, some of this could be getting at the pressure that Democrats were under hearing from. I mean, he's citing Goldman Sachs there. I'm sure Democrats were hearing from some of their friends at places like Goldman Sachs about some of those very same numbers. And, we were talking about the airlines pressuring Dems to cave on the shutdown. I'm sure this worked its magic with some of those Democrats as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, for a top White House official to be saying we could be looking at negative GDP growth in the fourth quarter is pretty stunning. We also had Scott Bessent previously saying, effectively admitting that some sectors of the economy are already in a recession. So even this administration, which is happy to spin and to lie about, basically everything, is having to acknowledge some measure of reality because it's just becoming too obvious. To, whether you're someone who's on Wall Street, looking at the numbers, looking at activity, whether you're a regular person, like just going about your life, it's becoming too obvious to deny. And it's worth saying in terms of the shutdown impact, first of all, the government is still technically shut down right now. I live in a town where most of the economic activity is centered around this naval base that does a lot of civilian research. A lot of people have been furloughed there. I'm getting questions at gymnastics about like, so when are we getting paid again? When is that happening? I don't know. I have no idea. So in any case, it'll be a while even before things are back up and fully running. And then the impact, and Sean Duffy admitted this, the impact of the airports is going to be long lasting. We were already in a dire situation with a lack of air traffic controllers. Now you've had people who couldn't go this long without a paycheck and they left and they're gone, or they're just sick of being treated in this way. Like, you know what? I thought working for the government meant that I had a steady and reliable job, and clearly I don't. So I'm going to go and do something else with my life. Those are going to be long-lasting impacts that are going to, I think, bleed over into holiday Thanksgiving travel. It's just right around the corner. So, for Hassett to be sounding the alarm here about negative GDP growth, I think is quite exceptional. And the last thing I'll say about that is we've, of course, been tracking how almost all of the GDP growth anyway has just been this giant speculative bet on AI has been the entirety of GDP growth anyway. that has been covering up a lot of other underlying problems in the economy, including in other, corporate stocks, consumer-centered stocks in particular, all of which are underperforming stock indexes in Europe and other parts of the world. So, if even with the AI hysteria, you are having negative GDP growth, that's a really ugly place to be.
And I wonder actually if we do see that they blame the shutdown. Yeah, if that's what, looking back on it, if that becomes the line for the administration is, they're looking to either say we inherited this economy, it's such a mess, but there's so much going on in this economy that you and Sagar have covered recently. Let's go ahead and put this next element up on the screen. This is a CNBC report on ghost job postings, which the headline here says are adding another layer of uncertainty to the stalling jobs picture. Since the beginning of 2024, job openings have outnumbered hires by more than 2.2 million a month, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics data that points to ghost jobs that never seem to get filled. This is a really shocking report, Krystal, because it's one of those things it's not even on your radar. And then when you look at it, this is part of the article. Job openings have generally been on the decline since peaking above 12 million in March 2022, when opportunities outnumbered available workers by better than 2 to 1. In August, the latest month for which data is available because of the government shutdown, openings totaled more than 7.2 million, while hires were just 5.1 million. The ratio of vacancies to workers was about even. What did you make of this, Krystal? Because to me, it just seems to be another wrinkle in the enormously complicated picture of an economy that feels like a total bubble right now.
Yeah, it feels fake in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And so ghost jobs make sense as part of that picture. We covered statistics about how many more job applications new college graduates are having to put out, just an astonishing number. And then even with that additional effort put in, for worse results where they're not getting as many jobs, the unemployment rate for new college grads is going up. And so, people who are going on whatever the resume, what is it, Indeed? What are the resume websites now? I forgot. When I was coming out of college, it was Monster, I think was the one we went to. But in any case, they're looking at these job openings and it's like, okay, I've applied for 1 million of these. Who is even getting these jobs? And apparently in some significant number, the answer is no one. These are just sort of hanging out there in the ether, fake job postings that never get filled. So you have this perception of like, oh, there's all these, job openings and, surely one of them will be interested in me, at least for a callback. But the reality is that they're actually, I don't know, they're just been hanging out there and no one bothered to delete them. They like to keep them out there to have resumes coming in case at a, last minute notice they need to bring in someone for some purpose or other. But I think for a lot of people who've been in the job market, it will probably ring very true to them that this is what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's right. And this is also part of the data package that economists use to understand where the economy is going. And some of the reactions in the CNBC story here are like, well, that's not helpful, because now we're trying to actually understand where things are going, what the real story is. And it's a reminder that honestly, the experts here don't exactly know what the real story is, let alone with changes in immigration enforcement and then changes in artificial intelligence, how rapidly that is sweeping different professions. So things do not feel good, that is for sure.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.